Hey guys, how are you doing? This is Zeph from Zed Outdoors and I hope you're having an awesome day. So today I'm with a good buddy of mine, Mark. Mark, how are you doing?
I'm doing well, Zed. How are you?
We're doing very, very well. So today we're on a Wildcamp, a recce Wildcamp. Now if you followed our progress up until now, you can see that the frame of the shelter has just begun. If you're new to this series, then please do check out the playlist before. That will take you all the videos up until this point. So we've done the frame of the shelter. Now before we go ahead and start building permanent beds, a permanent fire pit, etc., we thought it would be a very important step to actually do a test layout of this site, do an actual wild camp and overnighter, so we actually clear. So we really want to be clear about two things: the way the beds are laid out, because I've changed it slightly. Initially I was going to do one bed, now we're going to do two. So we need to test that layout and actually obviously sleep in it tonight to make sure it works okay. And also secondly, we want to look at the positioning of the fire pit just in front of the shelter, which I'll show you in a minute. And so we want to make sure that those two are exactly where we want them to be. So this is really a mock-up layout. And so what we're going to do, we've got like just normal camp beds. We're going to get some bricks and just lay out the outline of the fire pit. And we're going to do an actual wild camp. And by doing that, we're going to be a lot clearer of, okay, does anything need to be tweaked? Does anything need to be moved around? And obviously now is the time to do that. So once we're clear on that, then obviously we can start building everything out permanently. So all we're going to do now, we're going to get set up. A couple of things to mention. It is quite a blustery day today, so if that interferes with the mic, my apologies. Secondly, there's a lot of kind of on and off rain, intermittent rain, so that may affect the way I need to film this, because obviously if it starts raining I need to move it under the tarp. So my apologies in advance if that interferes with the flow of the filming. But that being said and done, I hope you enjoyed the rest of this video. So here's the frame of the shelter complete, and with the power of video editing, here is everything now set up. So let me take you on a quick tour of the setup. So here we go. Now remember, this is all very rough and ready because the only purpose of this wild camp is to make sure everything's positioned in the way we want it to. So everything's very temporary. We've got a lot of extra stuff to make sure it's all fit. So the first things first, we put obviously a temporary tarp because the weather's very inclement at the moment. So it's covering the top and obviously the back, which is what we want. And obviously, needless to say, when the shelter's actually completed, we're going to have sides in it as well. So obviously for the moment, we just need to protect from the rain. Now, here's where the changes happen. Initially, we were going to put the bed along the back. And now we've changed that slightly. And now what we're going to do, now obviously, these are folding camp beds, just to kind of simulate. Now these are both a little bit of a different size. This one's slightly shorter than this one. It's a slightly narrower length. And so this is essentially the size of the bed that we're going to have. A purpose-built bed. And that's, if you see it, it's just literally reaching the end of the front pillar. And when the roof is on, we're still going to have about a foot or so, about 1.5 feet hanging over. So it's more than enough to make sure that we're fully covered. So we've decided we're going to put a bed along the side. At the moment, we've got loads of stuff on here at the moment, but imagine that's all gone. We've got a bed along the side here, and also it's going to be double upper seating, and then we've got the empty space here. And now in front, once again, this is all temporary. We've put a pot hanging system. Actually, Mark's already got. So we put in here to simulate roughly where we're going to put the fire pit. So if you can see it kind of hanging over. We're thinking this will be a good enough distance from the beds and the seating area that's safe. That at the same time is close enough that obviously some of the heat. Now you can imagine when this is done at a later date, we're going to forge a full dedicated pot hanging system. We're also going to put a fire reflector behind it, etc. But for today, it's just about positioning, making sure we're okay with how everything sits. So as I mentioned on a previous occasion, I'm working with the mindset with the shelter that let's say it's raining non-stop. We've got to be able to function, work and do everything still comfortably. So inside is plenty of seating area by the time it's done. You've got to kind of imagine it done permanently. So inside, the way we're thinking now, we've still got loads of space to come and obviously sit down and do what we've got to do. We can still manage the fire. And what we're going to do is once the main shelter's done, I'm actually going to put a side shelter on, sticking out maybe about 1.5 feet, possibly even 2 feet. And with that one I'm going to build a frame and do oak shingles and whatnot. And with this one, this is going to be a wood store, but we're also going to store a lot of the kind of woodworking implements, such as a carving block, a pole lathe. I'm going to build down the line, a shave horse, etc. So all of this is going to be stored underneath here, like a side shelter coming out at a bit of an angle. And that's basically it. So obviously we're now, really our goal is just to chill out now. We're going to get a fire going shortly, do a bit of cooking, and really by sleeping here and making an actual fire, we're going to make sure that we're comfortable with the way everything's positioned. That's our sole goal for this wild camp. Now what we're going to do is actually grab some bricks on the other side of the woodland. So obviously this woodland is being managed, there's a lot of work being done on it. So they've got some bricks over there in a wheelbarrow, which makes it a lot easier for us. And we're actually going to position it around the fire to make sure we've got the right perimeter. Because once again, we want to be completely happy with that. But there's one thing with the fire I want to show you before we get that built. There's something else we've got to do. So obviously the fire is going to go here eventually when it's permanently built with the brick perimeter going around it. Now the one thing we have to, as part of the kind of management of the actual woodland itself, it turns out that these trees here will need to be taken down because they're quite dangerous. They're leaning over at a bad angle. And obviously this is right in front of the shelter. But it also creates a space as well. So before we build the fire pit, permanently as we move forward over the coming weeks, we're actually going to get a tree surgeon down for the day and actually remove these as part of the responsible management that's going on in this woodland and eradicate the stump as well. So we've got a clear opening at the back, and then therefore we can put a fire reflector there and also eliminate the danger of fire catching with anything. So as we kind of like expand more and more, we're realising, okay, something needs to be done before we actually implement this stage of the build. So for example, now, before we build the fire pit permanently, the trees have got to be sorted out and this area's got to be cleaned. But inside the shelter itself, we're really happy so far with how it looks. So now what we've got to do is get the bricks now for the perimeter of this fire pit.
Right, so
what we'll do, let's put, I think, because all we really need is an outline.
Yep.
So if we just put the bricks here as a rough outline.
Yep.
So with a bit of tinkering around, this is what we've done. So the outer part of the bricks is going to be the edge of the fire pit. We're going to dig it when it's finally done, the final version. It's going to be dug into the ground about 2-3 inches, and then we're going to put like stones along the edge to kind of pad it out and give it that perimeter. But basically that marks it out. And we've been playing the position with a tripod stand, and this is obviously an off-the-shelf bought one, and then obviously the final one we're going to forge ourselves. But this belongs to Marky Mark.
Hello. Hello.
And you actually mentioned something quite important, because initially I was just thinking like 2 poles either end with a pole going through. But you were talking about from a stability standpoint, weren't you?
Yes. So this is my old one. This is very used and trusted and used, and it works as a tripod. But if you're looking for a longer pot stand over a longer fire, like so, admittedly we would push these in a little bit more. What you've actually got is a bit of a stability problem. Now it's all right when you've got just like one kettle on there, or you're just cooking for one person. But if you were, why would you bring something like this out anyway? But that's another point. But as soon as you get a bit of weight on there, you've got this horrible lateral movement. So rather than try and get another, I bought a whole new set, this one, and it's got a tripod one end, which is a lot more stable, a lot more sturdy. This was actually made, I can't remember the guy's name, a guy actually made this specially for me. He's an artisan blacksmith who makes the stuff, and it's just a lot more stable, You have one single stem the other end, Obviously, what we haven't got with us is swing arms. Yeah, so you've got
Yeah,
your
so the
swing
final
arms.
version, we're going to have 2 swing arms out in. One is going to have a hook on it, so you can hook a pot or whatever, and the other one's going to have like a circular plate stand on it, so you can put like a hot plate on there, a frying pan or something. And like Mark said, they're going to be swivel. So, you know, they can be out of the way if we don't need them, but when we need them, we can just swivel them around. So, for example, you could have like water boiling, you know, throughout the day, and obviously when you're cooking your main food, we could just hang it using chains. We're also going to forge some trivets too, to put on there for the heavier pots and stuff. The idea with this is to give us a lot of versatility, you know, so one could argue, you know, you could just have the swivels and that'll be enough. But the idea is that, you know, this when the shelter is complete, we have to finish kind of fire pit, and it gives us a lot of versatility. Because moving forward, there's a lot of stuff we're going to be doing, cooking all sorts of stuff, foraging. We're going to be doing, you know, smoking, like all sorts of stuff. So I don't mean like smoking, right? I think the viewers know what I mean. But you know, really, we're going to be like, you know, smoking foods and stuff. So yeah, but we're happy with that. It took us a bit of tinkering around, but it's a very decent sized fire pit. The good thing with this ground is, actually, most of it's clay, kind of clay kind of soil mix. It's always very, very damp, so we've got no risk of the fire. And as I mentioned before, moving forward, these tree stumps are going to all be moved. So obviously all that's going to be cleared out, so there's no risk of a fire or whatever. But no, Mark, I think after a lot of tinkering around, I'm happy with that.
Yeah, I think that's the way forward. Like I say, it's going to evolve because we're going to end up with trivets, all sorts of things going on there. So yeah, anything that we can't cook on here isn't worth cooking.
Paul Daniels, eat your heart out, mate. You just show in Las Vegas, Mark. That's what you need. You need a couple of women around you in bikinis dancing.
Me and Penn and Teller.
That's it. You can be, don't tell her.
Penn and don't tell her. That's what she said. You ain't done it, that's what she said today.
I didn't do that, did I? I haven't done that once. I'm slacking, that's what it is, you know. Look at that. Do we need a table where you can put dice underneath and start shuffling it around? So we're going to try something, and the credit goes to my buddy Paul, aka Hayes Outdoors, and he cooked an apple in a bit of foil. And that's about as sophisticated as it gets. But you know what? It supposedly comes out really, really nice. So this apple actually came from a friend of the family. It came from his tree in his garden, so it's naturally grown from someone's home. And that's all we're going to do. We're going to stick this in the embers once we sealed it up tight with the foil. It's amazing, isn't it? It's gone from mild, and all of a sudden the cold starts to come back in again very quickly. Yeah. So it's subtle cold, isn't it?
As soon as that rain came down.
Yeah. Right, we honestly have no idea if this is done. I think it's been about 40 minutes. So I think the least case we're going to have a burnt apple. What do you reckon, Mark?
Could be a burnt apple, we don't know yet.
That's it. Or we just leave it there. People think it's like a dropped meteorite.
That does look a bit like a meteor. It's got a nice blackening on it.
So what we're going to do, we're going to let that cool down for a bit.
Yeah, before we unwrap it, otherwise the sugars in that are going to be absolutely scalding hot.
Right, we've let it cool down now. Let's do the opening test. I swear, I think we might have burnt it, you know.
Let's have a look.
What's that Christmas present in it?
Oh, I tell you what, it is burnt on the outside, but if I've got a spoon to hand, I reckon if we...
There we go. Got a spoon.
Oh, that smells absolutely delicious.
Hold on a second. Sorry guys, we're in the pitch black here. It's raining like profusely outside. There you go. You do the taste test, Ollie.
I'll do the taste test. I'll do the nodding dog taste test. Oh, that...
How is that?
I am telling you, that is good.
A's outdoors, you outdone yourself, mate. Quality goes to you. Mate, don't eat all of it, I've got to eat some as well.
No, you can't have any, you're cameraman.
Sorry about the lighting, guys. Are you going to feed me, Oliver?
Yes. Right, try.
That's actually really nice, you know.
Again.
Let's try a little bit. I need a Bushcraft bib. Honestly, that is really nice, you know.
That is nice.
But I think next time what we'll do, we need to make sure we've got good embers.
And you need 3 layers of...
And you need 3 layers of foil.
It's the same with potatoes when you do them. You need lots of layers of foil.
This was a very off the cuff, literally just before I left. I only just remembered.
Here we go, look, there's a good bit.
That's it. You go for it. Tuck in, man. That's it, man. Because I have learned that from before. You've got to put about 2-3 layers of foil in.
Yeah.
And make sure it's only on the embers. We did catch a bit of flame. That's so good. There's one thing actually I forgot to mention. We only just noticed it about half an hour ago. So it's the evening now. Obviously, it's pitch black. But obviously we've only got a tarp up. You can't see it obviously because of the lighting. So we've got a tarp covering the roof and the back. And obviously the sides are still open. And the fires, obviously we put the fire where roughly is going to be moving forward. And I'll tell you what, this holds the heat well, you know, this shelter.
Yeah.
And considering it's got no sides and there's no fire reflector, we're actually quite surprised. Because when it starts raining, which it is now, and it's kind of on and off, when it starts raining, we notice the temperature drop quite significantly. It gets really cold. But honestly, inside the shelter, it's really warm. So we can only imagine, only assume, and hopefully it is the case, when the sides go in, and the roof and obviously the back is done properly, and we have a fire reflector, I thought we'll be in our mankini, dancing around inside the shelter.
It's more letting you.
It's not a Bushcraft, Dad, isn't it?
It's lovely. It's lovely. I think that's probably about done. We're down to the core now.
This is where we sit and go, cool.
It's hot. You want to munch from that? Or...
No, you go for it, man. Go for it, sunshine. Go for it, Dad.
Done.
So Mark's trying something different here. With the other apple that we got, that was from our neighbour's garden.
Off the cuff. Just chop the apple up into bite-sized chunks. And then brandy.
After which this video is going to be published on the Alcoholics Anonymous fan page on Facebook.
No, in theory the alcohol will burn off the brandy and the sugars should impart a nice little flavour. So we're just going to whack that in there. See what happens. That could actually burst into flames any moment with that brandy in there.
Quite like a Gordon Ramsay effect, isn't it?
Yeah.
Without us swearing. So we've got it, the brandy's caught on fire.
See the blue flames coming from around the lid. Just leave that to cool down for a minute or two. Are you ready?
Let's see the big reveal, Mark.
Well, it's got a nice...
It's got a crispy...
It's got a rather black colour.
As long as the right shade of black. Oh, actually, some of it's alright.
Oh, a bit crispy on there. Right, let me try. This is molten lava.
I'm no expletives right on camera. It's too hot.
It's really nice, but it's too hot to handle. Right, let's leave the lid off it for a little while. Let it get down to a reasonable temperature.
But you want below Chernobyl.
Yeah.
Chernobyl.
Chernobyl fall off.
Right, is this the next dish we're going to burn?
Yeah, so this next thing we're going to burn is potato rosti. So we're going to put this on the frying pan rather than put it in the embers. We've actually got the stove on the go, so we'll see what happens in about 10 minutes time. Okay, on we go.
That's it, shines a light on it. Let's have a butcher's there, don't we? So these are little pans you bought, haven't you? Cast iron.
Yeah, so these I've had these for a long time. They're more than anything. When we used to have dinner parties and things, it was like, you know, for fancy presentation, but they're perfectly good. The square frying pans I have actually used in the past, but that's on another YouTube channel, and you don't want to know about that.
That's the illicit one. Cheers, guys.
Cheers.
And cheers with a corn sausage roll.
Yep, and a tap.
Thank you, sir. Oh, that's a nice cup of tea, that.
That is a lovely cup of tea.
McCartney. Oh.
That is nice. If you, like, I'm telling you now,
There's subtitles for this.
if you served that up to me and didn't tell me, I would think that was pork sausage. I would probably go, oh, what type of sausage is this? Yeah, because it's not the same as, but I wouldn't know.
So I put him onto the Linda McCartney stuff, sausages and stuff. I'll tell you what, man, they're so good. So good.
We actually cooked it in coconut oil, so you got that lovely, delicate coconut flavour in the background.
That's it. It's continental breakfast this morning, I tell you.
Intercontinental.
So there you go, guys. That is a wrap for the short recce Wildcamp. So what are the conclusions we've come to? The fire pit in front of the fire, we're a lot clearer now in terms of the size that's going to be, how that's going to be situated, and the way we're going to have to forge it and the design that we're going to use. Also, we're very happy with the size of this structure actually, Now that we had the tarp on it and we've done our first actual overnighter sleeping, we're really happy with the ambient light. Apologies about the footage earlier in the video showing the nighttime scenes. It's always very difficult filming in the dark, but the ambient light was fantastic. Something I did mention earlier on during the nighttime scene is the heat was coming back into the shelter and it was holding here, and considering there are no sides in it as of yet, that was quite impressive, and there was no fire reflector. So we're pretty confident, fingers crossed, that that's going to work also. Then in terms of the layout inside the shelter, we've had a big revelation. So actually sleeping out, doing an overnighter here, paid dividends, because literally as soon as we woke up in the morning, the first thing we said to ourselves, bunk beds. That's right. So initially we've slept like this, one bed here and one bed here, and that was all great. But we realised actually in the morning we could build a bunk bed, so we're potentially going to do that now. And the way we're going to do it is we're going to have one bed here, and we're going to have a bed going just slightly higher above over here. So when you sit down here, you've still got plenty of head height comfortably, okay, without smacking your head. And that's what we're potentially going to do. So there you go. So in this way, we've got this entire space over here completely empty. And what we're going to do behind here, obviously once the sides are in, the roof are in, is we're going to build the shelves at the back about yay kind of depth. Because obviously we need to keep pots, pans, foraged foods, items, etc. And in that way, we still have this entire area here empty. One thing I'm doing also very soon is I'm going to be building 2 rustic chairs. So obviously that's a lot more portable. You can move those around camp, sit down and do tasks. So there you go. Doing an overnighter was most definitely worth it. Laying out a mock-up of the layout of the base camp was definitely worth it. And now we're so much more happier. We're really happy with the design of the shelter. It's definitely working, thankfully. And we know the layout from within the base camp itself, what we've got to do. So in short, the fire pit, the reflector and everything around it, we're a lot more comfortable now the way we're going to do it, and we know, fingers crossed, it's going to work. The shape of the shelter works like an absolute charm, and now we're going to make bunk beds. Look at that, man, how cool is that? Bushcraft bunk beds. So there you go, definitely a productive overnighter. So there you go, guys, that is a wrap for this video. Mark, thank you so much for an amazing overnighter.
My pleasure, Zed.
It was absolutely fantastic. We had a really great night. Challenging weather yesterday, but this morning turned out to be absolutely beautiful. And what more could I ask for? I got treated to a 3-course burnt meal. That was just, seriously, you don't even get that in high-class restaurants in London, man.
We could give lessons on how to burn apples in many different ways.
That's it. Mark will give you a masterclass on the next video, how to burn your food 99 different ways. All right. But I am joking. We had a great time.
That was good.
Main thing is we achieved what we set out to do. So as I mentioned earlier on, we're a lot happier with the fire pit, how we're going to do that and the placing of that and the size. Also, we're very happy with the frame, the dimensions, the head height and the depth inside. Last night, maybe it didn't come out great on video the way I was filming, but we had some beautiful ambient light.
Yep.
The kickback from the fire was fantastic, considering we had no sides. We had good kickback, so fingers crossed.
Yeah.
Once everything's in, we should, and with the fire reflector, we should have some good heat reflection,
yep,
which is a big kind of key factor. And also waking up this morning, like I said, we looked at each other across our beds romantically, and then we thought to ourselves, we need a bunk bed. That's it. So we don't have to look at each other in the morning. No, I'm joking. But it just saves a lot of space, you know. So that's what we're going to do. So Zed Outdoors is making things difficult for himself. And that's what I love. Because now we're challenging ourselves. So hope you enjoyed this video. As always, if you've got any feedback and suggestions, let us know below. If you want to see the build up until now, I'll link below to the playlist of this Bushcraft Basecamp. And we've got a lot more to come. On the next visit, we've got a lot of tasks to do around camp. We've got to level the ground out. We're going to put some drainage along the sides for the siding to be put in. We've got to shape up all the dowels and the pegs and make them all flush and a lot more kind of neater. And loads of things that are moving over the coming weeks. So I'm quite excited. There's a lot of good things to come. So hope you enjoyed this video. Be sure to connect with me on social media. I'll put a link below to my Instagram. Just search for Zed Outdoors. I'm also going to put a link to Mark's profile as well on Instagram. Follow him. And like I said, there's a lot of stuff I'm sharing on Instagram. If you have a look on there, it gives you a lot of behind the scenes footage of what we're doing at this base camp. So, hope you enjoyed this video. If you haven't subscribed already, be sure to hit that subscribe button. And as always, for Mark and myself, hope whatever you're doing, you have a blessed day, a blessed week ahead. This is Zed from Zed Outdoors. Peace out.